What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Buzzer Beater. I'm your host, Mick Miller, and like always, I'm joined with the one and only Jake McCleary. Jake, before I ask you this question, I have to tell our viewers, Jake's been having a rough few days as of late, so you're going to have to be a little sensitive with him. Yesterday, your volleyball team lost your first game of the season, intramural team, and then I have it under good authority that on Saturday you guys sunk a kayak?
Well, in my defense, the kayak had a hole in it.
And the GoPro that was filming is...
Yeah, that's at the bottom of the ocean.
Well, it's been a rough few days for Jake, but let's get right into our show. Buzzer Beater, again, will be live every single Wednesday at 2:30. We're running a little bit late today, but we'll get right into it as we go straight to volleyball. Volleyball had their first game of the season last week, in which they lost to Alaska Anchorage. The Seasiders jumped off to a quick start, in which they won the first set, but in the second set they went down 25-7 and then went on to lose 3-1. Jake, what happened after that first set?
Well, to put it simply, things escalated quickly and really got out of hand fast. The Alaska Anchorage team turned up the tempo, which we couldn't seem to match it. We couldn't seem to match it for the rest of the game.
I think it was in the pregame show in which we talked about how for them to win that game, they really needed to be consistent. And in that first set, they were extremely consistent. They were attacking from both sides. Cinnamoni and Leilani were very aggressive. And Kaylee Park, she was setting them up very nicely. But I think in that second set, Coach Mona Ahoy said, quote, "I was really happy with the way we came out in the first set, but then in the second set, it seemed that the communication kind of fell apart. And that was what happened in that second set. And then the third and fourth set resulted in losses as well." What is something that you feel like the Seasiders need to improve upon and that they can learn from in this first game?
The biggest thing, exactly that. The things that we talked about last week for the keys to success in this season is consistency. They came out that first set, looked like they could beat anybody in this conference. However, after that first set, they looked like they were a brand new team just coming together, and they need to learn how to pull themselves together and be consistent throughout the whole game.
One of the takeaways that I had was this is the first game of the season.
Yeah.
There are a lot of transfers and new players along with the players that returned from last year. But I was very impressed with Leilani Adolfo.
Oh, yeah.
11 kills, 22 digs, a double-double in her first game. She played really, really well. And again, the first game of the season, you have to knock out all the cobwebs. Again, Alaska Anchorage, number 14 team in the nation. A very, very good team that came into BYU-Hawaii a little bit rusty. We could see that in that first set. But then the second set, like Coach Mona said, the communication kind of fell apart. And that's what happened and resulted in the loss for the Seasiders. But it's one game, and they'll have a lot of things to work upon and get closer to the end of the season. Seasiders will be back in action against Montana State Billings tomorrow. It's the first game of the season for Montana State. Last year they went 6-23. They had to fight through a lot of adversity. They had a lot of young players on the team, but most of those young players are coming back. What can we expect from this team on Thursday?
Well, on Thursday, like you said, this is their first game of the year, so they're going to be prepared. They've scouted this team. They've played this team before in the past. They're going to know about Adolfo, about Tonga, and they've done their homework. So we've got to, play like they've scouted us out.
And one thing that the Seasiders really need to pay attention to is they did go 6-23 last year. They're going to come out looking to set a message in their first game. They want to set a tone, and they want to set a standard that they will build upon going into the rest of the season. Ashlyn Ward is a player to watch. Talk to us a little bit about Ashlyn.
Ashlyn Ward, she's a team leader. She's coming back from last season. There's the buzzer. But Ashlyn Ward is a player that the Seasiders are going to need to look out for.
And then there's a doubleheader. So tomorrow the Seasiders are going to play Cal Poly Pomona.
Yep. Cal Poly Pomona at 7:30. This will also be their first game of the season. Cal Poly went 17-13 last season. What can we expect to see from the Broncos on Thursday?
Now, the Broncos are a very talented team. Last year was a subpar year for them. I know that midway through the season, they had some adversities that they needed to work through. A lot of freshmen stepped into the starting lineup for the Broncos. But one thing that you need to know about this team is that they are highly motivated. In the preseason, they've been doing a lot of good things to build up into this 2016 season. And Deanna Blaine is a player to watch out for. Last year, she averaged nearly 3 kills per set. That's only a little bit less than Cinnamoni Tonga on our team. They're about the same player. So we know with Cinnamoni what we're going to get from her. Deanna Blaine, it's kind of the same thing. She's a very aggressive outside hitter for the Broncos. Keys to victory, Jake. In the pregame show, we talked all about consistency, but my first key to victory in this game is going to be communication. Like Coach Mona said, it was in that second set in which communication kind of broke down for the Seasiders. I think if they can continue to communicate and just talk to each other out on the court, then they'll set themselves up nicely. And this Broncos team, like we said, is a very talented team. You can't beat talent if you don't communicate with your own teammates.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And a second key to success is being aggressive, whether up or down. We saw in that first set last game that they were aggressive. They're coming out. We had how many kills in that first set? However, the aggressiveness seemed to go down as the game went on. So they need to stay aggressive throughout the whole game.
Now, I said this in the pregame show. We said this last week on Buzzer Beater. I'm going to say it again. My third key to victory is consistency. If the Seasiders can be consistent from the first set to the second set, third set, and even if it goes to the fifth set, they'll set themselves up nicely, and they'll come out with a victory against Cal Poly Pomona.
It'd be more intimidating, too. All right, and we're about to have our first commercial break. When we come back, me and Mick had a chance to attend a women's soccer practice on Monday, and we'll see what happened then.
That was an outstanding win for the Seasiders for a couple of reasons. One is they played well in the second half. They got the win. They're in the tournament.
BYU-Hawaii, number 1 seed all the way, wins the regional title of the NCAA West.
Great win for us. It was a nice win. We held our composure and, just to close down. It's tough to close out in the championship, but we did it.
It's still surreal to me.
It's hard to imagine that Coach Wagner, when he called that timeout with 13 seconds left on the shot clock, was setting up a play for a 40-foot jump shot with 1 second left on the clock. But Pablo hit it.
Laughed at us, saying so long for beautiful Laia, Hawaii.
Well, Whitley, the preseason and the training camps are finally over. How excited are you for the season to officially start?
Oh, I'm so excited. The whole team's pumped. We've been practicing. We're ready to go.
What were some of the things that you guys learned as a team during this preseason and exhibition games?
We played really well as a team. We played some tough D1 competition. We held our own. Both games we played, we went into overtime and we lost 1-0. So we played really well. We've just got a couple more. We've got some more preseason games till we hit season. I think we'll come together really well.
With the first game just around the corner, what are some of the goals that you guys have established as a team as the season's getting ready to start?
We want to go all the way. We're going to take conference. We all have that in mind set. We've talked about it, and we're ready to take it all the way. Following a set of very impressive performances against two Division I teams, Camille Jones was named to the Outrigger Soccer Classic All-Tournament team. Well, Camille, congratulations. 19 saves in 2 games. You were named to the All-Tournament team. What does that mean to you?
It just means I played a few great games and our whole team did well, and I'm just proud that I was able to get this award.
3 games for the preseason, exhibition games against a few D1 schools, really good teams. What were some of the things that you guys learned as a team and you learned individually?
That we need to keep our intensity up, and even though we're going to play some hard teams, we're going to play some good teams, that we can come out on top.
With the beginning of the season just around the corner, head coach Dan Dumar has set the bar very high for his Seasiders, and they firmly believe that this is the year that they bring home a Pac-West Conference championship and make a deep run into the NCAA tournament. The Lady Seasiders' first game will be on Thursday here at the BYU-Hawaii soccer field. You can follow the game on the Seasider Front Row app, as well as a pregame and postgame show on Facebook Live. Reporting from the BYU-Hawaii soccer field, I'm Mick Miller, BYU-Hawaii Athletics. Well, last week the Lady Seasiders, 2 games against 2 Division I programs. They played extremely well. The first game against Idaho State, the Seasiders lost 1-0 in overtime off a penalty kick in the last few minutes of the game. Then they went on to play Sacramento State on Saturday. Another amazing game up until the overtime, in which Sacramento State was able to score yet another goal late in the overtime. Jake, how impressed are you with BYU-Hawaii and what they were able to do against these 2 Division I programs?
You know, like me, with the whole school, we're really impressed with how this team played against D1's team. Sure, it would have been nice to get those victories, but to play a team as good as Sacramento State and to play that good and only lose by 1 in overtime, it's always a good sign.
Yeah, when we talked to Coach Dumar, he said he was so impressed with how well they played for 90 minutes. And then there was a few breakdowns in overtime, but the overall consensus of these 2 games against Division I programs was they played amazing, and that those teams that they played are better than almost every team in the Pac-West Conference. So if they can play that well in the preseason against Division I programs, I think they're going to set themselves up very nicely for this upcoming season.
That's a good sign.
What are some of the things that we can take away, though, from these 2 games against Division I teams?
Well, from the practice that we attended on Monday, I heard Coach Dumar talking to the team in the huddle. He's talking about those 2 games that they lost. He's not mad. He's not mad at the girls, but he wants the girls to remember how it felt to be so close to winning those games, beating those teams, and he wants that feeling that those girls have to push them, make them more hungry to get victories in the future.
And you can't forget the game against Tusculum, in which they won 3-0. So it has been a very successful offseason for the Seasiders.
Mm-hmm.
The offseason is officially over. Exhibition games are done. What have you seen in this preseason that the Seasiders really have done well and can put into effect this upcoming season?
Well, like we talked about last week on Buzzer Beater, this team's got a lot of new players, got a lot of young players, but they're really coming through. They're really proving themselves. They're not being intimidated playing 2 deep Division I teams. And then Camille Jones, her freshman year, her first year, coming out performing like that, it's a good sign.
Well, the first game is going to be against Cal State Dominguez Hills at 3 o'clock. That game's tomorrow. Now, Cal State, they went 4-13-1 in 2015. They did, however, beat the Seasiders 2-1 last season. This is a team that's very hungry, that wants to build upon what happened last year and make it even better this year. So what kind of team are the Toros?
They're a team, they've got experience. They were a young team last year, so this team, they're coming back. They got a lot of good team chemistry. They're looking to avenge last season. I feel like they should have done better last season than they did, and with the players that they had last year, they're out to prove themselves.
And they're an explosive team. They did score a lot of goals last season, so I'm happy to see the defense playing well against the Division I programs.
That's true.
Keys to victory, Jake, what do you got?
First key to victory, I think, is defensive intensity. We saw Camille Jones perform herself. However, no matter how great your goalie is, a lot of shots on goal is not a good sign. So the defense has got to keep the intensity up, take some pressure off of Camille, and then, move the ball up the field.
My key to victory would be offensive explosion. In the game against Idaho State, BYU-Hawaii only had 4 shots. 3 of them were on goal. This is a very explosive offense. You've got Division I players from the SEC that Coach Dumar brought in for this season. They need to be very aggressive on the offensive end to give the Seasiders a chance. Camille Jones is very good as a keeper, but we need to start putting goals through the net for the Seasiders to have success.
Exactly. And the third key to success is sticking to the game plan. These girls need to trust the coaches, trust Coach Dumar, trust that he's done his homework, that he's got preparation. So as long as these girls stick to the game plan, I think they got a good chance.
Absolutely. And our highlighted player of the week is none other than Camille Jones. Now, Camille was named an Outrigger Classic All-Tournament team. Basically, it's the tournament in which BYU-Hawaii went up against the 2 Division I programs, and she was named to the All-Tournament team. She had 19 saves in 2 days, 9 against Idaho State, and then 10 against Sacramento State. She played phenomenal. She's our athlete of the week, and watch her for this upcoming game against Cal State Dominguez Hills. She'll be the one to lead the Seasiders, not only in this game, but throughout the season. And with that, we're going to take another commercial break, but don't go anywhere.
May my feet be swift and my mind clear. Let my heart not faint in the face of adversity. By my own strength, I am strong, but with Thee, O Lord, we are unstoppable.
BYU-Hawaii has a rich legacy of greatness. The Seasiders have brought home 24 national championships, produced 190 All-Americans, honored 20 National Players of the Year, and is home to the NCAA's all-time winningest coach. The Seasiders' success off the court earned them the 2016 Pac-West Academic Achievement Award for the highest program GPA. Student athletes represent the hard work and dedication of every student at BYU-Hawaii and tell the university's story to the world. You can stay up to date with giveaways and events with our Seasider Front Row app and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at BYUH Athletics. Come out and support this rich legacy and be a part of Sider Nation. Mahalo nui loa, Seasiders, for 49 great years.
After speaking with the players after today's practice, it's very clear that they're anxious for the season just to get started. The Seasiders' first game of the 2016 season will be on September the 10th against HPU. The Seasiders are ready to go and take that Pac-West Conference championship, the one that eluded them in the 2015 season. Reporting from the BYU-Hawaii soccer field, I'm Mick Miller, BYU-Hawaii Athletics. Again, we'd like to thank Coach Dumar for letting us come out to practice and talk with the men's team. It's been kind of funny because we've talked so much about the women's soccer team because they've been like playing games, they've had preseason, and their season's getting ready to start tomorrow. The men actually don't start until the 10th. So they've had a long preseason in which we talked to them at practice. What were some of the things that the players were telling you?
They're just talking about how they're ready for the season to get started. You know, they're seeing the girls play, they're getting anxious, they're ready to go. They're not scared about this last season of sports, but they're getting ready to go.
Yeah, what I liked and what I took away from practice is that there's this competitive spirit going on in practice right now that the best players on the team they're going up against the newcomers, and the newcomers want to come in and take the returners' spots. So there's a lot of competitiveness going on in practice. Yesterday, one of the big things I took away from Monday was Jake McCray, who is probably arguably the best player on this year's team, was going up against the newcomers. He was going up against freshmen, and he was going harder than anybody. When you were talking to Coach Dumar, what did Coach Dumar talk about Jake and this team as a whole?
He thinks that this team, especially with Jake as one of the leaders of this team, is going to be one of the fastest teams that's ever played at this school.
So let's introduce you to our men's soccer team. In 2015, the Seasiders went 10-8. They finished in the top 5 in the Pac-West Conference, just missing the tournament. They've got a brand new coach and head coach Dan Dumar. What observations have you made about last year's team going into this year?
Well, an observation that I made just from practice on Monday was seeing all the new players that are on this team compared to last season. There's 7 players, I believe, from Europe, and so that just shows how great recruitment that Coach Dumar had over this offseason. Also, with the new head coach, like you talked about earlier, it's a new head coach. It takes adjusting for some of the players who were on the team last season, but from what we saw in practice, there doesn't seem to be any problems.
One thing that I observed when I was watching them play last year was that at home they played amazing. They really, really played well on their home field. There were 2 road trips that they went on the road and they struggled a little bit. They would drop 2 great games in a row, and they would drop 2 out of 3, and that really killed the momentum. So again, consistency will be a big thing with all of our sports, but for the men's soccer team, that's something that I think they lacked last season. Keys to success in 2016. The first one I have is chemistry. You talked about the 7 players coming from Europe. There's a lot of newcomers, and there's a lot of returners. Coach Dumar, interestingly enough, said that this is the most talented team that BYU-Hawaii has ever had in the men's soccer program. With all that talent, and I think we've seen it in college, we've seen it in the pros, when there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of people that want to get their time in, they want to score, they want to be in the limelight. So my first key to victory is, if they're going to be successful in 2016, all that talent has to have chemistry. They need to come together, put their egos aside, and think what's best for the team instead of what's better for me.
Yeah. And the second key to success, So far, we've been talking about the front line. All the hype has been about the front line, about Jake McCray. However, I think the second key to success is to protect the back line. The back line is full of those players who are new this year, some from Europe, some from other states in the U.S. They got to prove themselves on the back line.
And my third key to victory is free McCray, and that's who we're going to talk about right now, who is our highlighted player of the year. In 2015, Jake McCray had one of the best seasons in BYU-Hawaii men's soccer history. He shattered the single-season scoring record with 14 goals, which not only got him the record here at BYU-Hawaii, but he won the scoring title in the Pac-West Conference. He also was the newcomer of the year in the Pac-West, and this preseason he was named an All-Pac-West All-American. So Jake is someone that we really need to keep an eye out for. He's not only the leader, but he's the best player, and he really showed it in practice when he was competing harder than anybody else. With this expectations so high for Jake, what do you personally expect him to do, not only on the field, but off the field as well?
Be a leader. It's like you said, he's got to be a leader. A lot of new players on this team, a lot of people looking up to him, a lot of expectations for him. He's just got to prove himself as a leader.
All right, and so we're going to take our last commercial break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're talking college football. The college football season is just around the corner.
Let's go.
That was an outstanding win for the Seasiders for a couple of reasons. One is they played well in the second half. They got the win. They're in the tournament.
BYU-Hawaii, #1 seed all the way, wins the regional title of the NCAA West.
Great win for us. It was a nice win. We held our composure and, this would close down. It's tough to close out in the championship, but we did it.
It's still surreal to me.
It's hard to imagine that Coach Wagner, when he called that timeout with 13 seconds left on the shot clock, was setting up a play for a 40-foot jump shot with 1 second left on the clock, but Pablo hit it.
So long for beautiful Laia, Hawaii.
Fall and winter athletes are back on campus and ready to kickstart a new athletic year. Before the start of practices and training, the Seasiders heard from President Tanner, Athletic Director Brad Jones, along with many other members of the BYU-Hawaii athletics staff. As it stands, this will be the Seasiders' last year of athletics, but that's not stopping them from being optimistic about this upcoming season. I'm joined here with Justin Park, forward on the men's basketball team. Justin, welcome back to BYU-Hawaii. How excited are you to be back here for one last season here at BYU-Hawaii to represent the men's basketball team?
Well, personally, I'm very excited to be back. I recently just got married, and so I'm actually looking forward to that, having my wife at the games now, and also just looking forward to having a great last year here at BYU-Hawaii.
Well, as a team, we're all super excited. We're just waiting to have our best and probably our final and probably our best season, hopefully. We're all super excited with the new coach and the team, and I think we're going to have a super strong season and squad.
Unfortunately, there's only one more season left, but it's another season to leave a great legacy, chase championships, things that were talked about today. What's a goal that you and your team have for this upcoming season?
Yeah, we have talked about this, and our goal is to be first in the conference. We want to win it this year, and I really think that we can do this, and we're all excited, and we all want to do this, so if we get together, we can do it.
Athletic Director Brad Jones is very excited about this upcoming season and has made it very clear what he expects from his teams this year.
We're going to chase championships this year. That's our biggest goal, is to go out there, win as many championships as we can, compete, and continue on with that excellence that's been set here in the past. Academically, is the other big aspect that we always shoot for. We're very proud of our student athletes. Last year, we broke a Pac-West record with the highest GPA ever from an athletic department by our student athletes of a 3.46. And we want to build upon that. We want to win not only on the field, but we want to continue our student athletes winning off the field as well to continue in their excellence.
All of our athletes are ready for the season to begin, and you can get more engaged this season. Along with the BYU-Hawaii Sports Network, all of our social media platforms, there is now the Seasider Front Row app, which is available on the App Store and is ready to download now. Our first women's soccer game will be on August 11th, so there's no better time to download this app and follow all of your Seasider sports teams. Reporting from the campus of Brigham Young University, Hawaii, I'm Mick Miller, BYU-Hawaii Athletics. All right, Jake. College football season is officially here. Unfortunately, we don't have a college football team here at BYU-Hawaii, but we can talk about the other programs. Give me your two teams that will go to the national championship game, and who's going to win?
I'm calling LSU. LSU's at the top of most polls right now. You know, you got Leonard Forte's Heisman run. You got the whole team basically returning. So right now, they're number one for me, LSU. Number two, I got Oklahoma. They're not a team that's put at number one, but they're high up there. I think right now they're at fourth in the ESPN polls. The only challenges I saw on their schedule was Texas and Ohio State, but I believe that they could beat them and show up in the championship.
My heart and my mind have two different teams, so I'm going to go with those two teams. My heart is going to go with Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes are an extremely talented team, and a lot of people are talking about how, you know, the 7 or 9 players that won in the first round are no longer on the team this year, but they do have JT Barrett back. Urban Meyer's the head coach, and the Buckeyes are ranked 6th in the nation. I think that the Buckeyes will have a successful year. They do have a hard schedule in which they will go up against Oklahoma. They do have to play Michigan State at Michigan State, and then Michigan reloaded this upcoming summer. So my heart's telling me Ohio State, but my mind's going with Clemson. Clemson went to the national title game, and they have the best player in college football, Deshaun Watson, back. I think with the team that they have coming back, with Deshaun Watson, who Nick Saban said was the most talented football player since Cam Newton, I think that these two teams meet in the national championship game. It's going to be one of those things where I go to the game rooting for one and booing for the other because my heart says Ohio State, but my mind's telling me Clemson. But I'm going to go with Clemson winning the national championship this year. As long as it's not this team and this coach, I'm fine. Alabama is an absolute dynasty. I don't see any teams taking them out these next few years just because they're so good at reloading. They recruit every single year. But this year, however, I think talent is going to finally take out Alabama as Deshaun Watson and JT Barrett take both of their teams to the national championship game. But at the end, I have Clemson winning it.
Let's see it.
This year, one of the most talked about topics in college football is the 3 individuals on the TV screen behind us. Leonard Fournette, Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey. Some of the most talented college football players that anyone has ever seen. The Heisman watch, it's very exciting this year. Jake, give me 2 guys that you're going to keep an eye out for that you think are going to win the Heisman this upcoming year.
Well, the first guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, maybe Taysom Hill from Brigham Young University. Taysom Hill was on the Heisman watch last year.
Last year.
He suffered his 3rd season-ending injury. He's had that time to recover and get better, so I could see him in the run for Heisman this year. Second, Christian McCaffrey, like you said, from Stanford, who many people thought should have won it last year. He was robbed. The only challenge for him is that his team, Stanford, might not be as good as they were last year, so they're going to have to perform for him to have a chance to win the Heisman.
You should be ashamed of yourself, and you should be banned from talking college football saying Taysom Hill. He's had 3 season-ending injuries. 3. And he's 25 years old.
We'll see it.
Here's the guys that I'm going with this year. My dad is probably going to call me after the show because the first guy is his guy, Leonard Fournette. 2015, 1,953 yards, 22 touchdowns. If he doesn't run into that Alabama defense, he wins the Heisman, in my opinion. Derrick Henry had a great year. I agree with you. Christian McCaffrey probably should have won the Heisman last year, but Leonard Fournette this year is a guy that you really need to keep an eye out for. I think LSU is a very talented team. And Les Miles, he knows how to recruit defensive players and running backs. Not so much quarterbacks, so they're going to be running the football a lot. And then the guy who's going to win it is the guy who was the first quarterback in college football history to throw for over 4,000 yards and rush for over 1,000 yards. That would be none other than Deshaun Watson. 49 total touchdowns in 2015. He will not only win the Heisman, but he will lead Clemson to a national championship in 2016.
Taysom Hill, let's go.
No, Taysom Hill, you got to be kidding. MLB, let's talk about baseball a little bit. The divisional standings as they stand are right now. In the East, in the American League, Toronto Blue Jays, 75-57. They have a 1.5 lead over the Red Sox. In the Central, the Cleveland Indians looking to follow in the Cavaliers' footsteps and bringing another title to Cleveland. Texas Rangers in the West, Washington Nationals in the National League East, Chicago Cubs in the Central, and in the West, the Dodgers and the Giants are fighting for that last spot.
Don't forget the MVP race between Chris Bryant and Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, the MLB is very, very exciting this year. That's the end of Buzzer Beater. Thanks for tuning in with us. Just a reminder that the Lady Seasiders will be in action tomorrow with our women's soccer team at 3 at the BYU-Hawaii soccer field. Our women's volleyball team will play at 11 in the morning, and then also the game will be at 7 o'clock at night on BYU TV. Same thing for Friday, 11 and 7 for our Lady Seasiders. Thanks for tuning in to Buzzer Beater. We'll see you next week.